And it's also got a factory locking rear differential, factory front locking differential, and then I can also disconnect the sway bar. Now, a lot of people wait until they get into something more challenging to disconnect the sway bar. Do it early. As soon as you go into low range, disconnect that sway bar because it significantly improves driver and rider comfort. You're just not getting that head toss that you normally get with such a rigid front sway bar. So I just disconnect it almost immediately as soon as I go into low range. Hello, I'm Scott Brady with Expedition Portal and Overland Journal, and we are here on a stormy day in central Arizona with one of the most fun vehicles I have ever driven. Now, this is a 392 Rubicon Wrangler, makes 470 horsepower, 470 foot-pounds of torque, and I can attest to the fact that it goes 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. This is such a fun truck, and it's got all of the capability we've always wanted in a Jeep, but now we can get a HEMI from the factory. But it doesn't just stop with the HEMI. It actually includes a 2-inch lift from the factory and 35-inch tires. Of course, rear locker, front locker, and sway bar disconnect. This thing is a monster on the trail and so much fun on the road. All right, so let's talk about this electric retractable top. So that JL was first announced and they talked about the fact that we were going to have this hybrid hard top, soft top. First, I kind of dismissed it. Who would want that? It was a little expensive and added some weight to the vehicle, but I have to say that I've used it nearly every day that I've driven this Jeep. It is so fun to just push the button. The top retracts back behind the second row of passengers, and you basically get this convertible Jeep feel without having to remove the hard top. So it gets the thumbs up for me. Big change in my impression. So the top, with just one button push, closes all the way automatically. Now, I found that it won't always close when you're going over maybe 30, 35 miles an hour or so, but you just slow down and off it goes. All right, let's push it open again. Just again, one button push, and it neatly tucks itself back in the vehicle. Now, what's interesting also is that the rails are retained on the sides, so you could actually still fit a lightweight roof rack. Probably going to go down to 18. Then we can easily drive on the road if we need to. All right, so let's talk real quick about the inside of the 392. When you fire it up, it's one of the joys of this car, and it just sounds great. And it's got a couple options. You can go into quiet mode so that you can keep your neighbors happy, and that's just a button push, and it probably reduces the sound by at least 50%. And then it's got all of the things that you would expect in a Rubicon, with a few exceptions. So it has a Grand Cherokee full-time transfer case, which makes a lot of sense actually, because there's so much horsepower that you want this thing to automatically engage the front axle to provide traction even on the road. or you can go into 4-high part-time, or you can go into neutral, or you can go into low range. Now the low range is not 4-to-1, which we're used to in a Rubicon. So this is a standard 2.7 2-to-1 low range. I'm sure a lot of folks complain about that. It's perfect for this truck. I've not found in a situation anywhere yet that the 2.7 2-to-1 is not sufficient, particularly with that really deep first gear in the 8-speed automatic. Now as we start to go up this particular climb here, which is really loose, you've got a bunch of hardware available to you. So it has factory traction control, and it's also got a factory locking rear differential, factory front locking differential, and then I can also disconnect the sway bar. The torque of that V8 is also very noticeable. It has a lot better modulation, a lot better overall control than I find with the V6. I do get a little bit of surging out of it though. It depends on how you're driving the vehicle, but if I was to go into manual mode right now and lock in a gear and get it a little higher up in the RPM range, I would get some surging out of it, which is noticeable. But if you just kind of let the automatic shift as it needs to, or run even a little bit higher gear, then you don't get that surging.
Every breath is measured, all the clocks are telling time, and every word that leaves our lips leaves us fast behind. So we dream of destinations, cause it helps the drink go down. I'm drunk to blur the obvious, this tired round and round. And instead, we give motive to the walk that drives our feet. Seems a reason for the journey, some complete and incomplete. And in breath, we substantiate the better exchange. And once everyone's convinced, explanation is explained. Sharpened senses make it evident, horizons hold our sight, and our thoughts like springs eternal in the camera's eye tonight. Steadfast fascination in the way we live today. We think there's some connection, we all swear there's some connection, as we all go violent in the wind. No intention, no direction, just a dazed and dizzy spin. Yeah, we all go violent in the wind. No intention, no direction, just a dazed and dizzy spin.
You're good.
Start to hallucinate.